Those bald chicks are here to slay. Stop what you're doing, plug in and play. Those bald chicks will make your day. So stop what you're doing and say, those bald chicks.
Hello, all you bald and balding people, and welcome back to Those Bald Chicks, your favorite alopecia podcast. I'm Paige, and I'm here with Kristen and our sixth guest, Frank. Let me butcher your last name, why don't I? Cornine? Cornine.
Cornine, but yeah, everyone does say Cornine. So.
Oh, I like it.
Cornine.
Yeah.
Okay, Cornine. Frank Cornine, who is from Boston, Massachusetts, and has had Universalis for over 20 years. He is also a fellow podcaster who decided to start his podcast, Alopecia Connection, to help get more stories of alopecia out into the world. He has focused more on stories from the male perspective, as those are generally underrepresented for a variety of reasons. So thank you, Frank, for being here, and welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
So excited.
I know, we're really excited to hear your story and just all about your podcast. So go ahead and tell us about your hair loss journey thus far.
Yeah, so it all started when I was 17. I had basically just turned 17. And it was the summer before my senior year of high school. Okay. And my family, took a nice family vacation out to the Northwest. Boston, we went out to Seattle, Portland, Oregon. It was on that trip that I kind of first noticed some hair loss going on.
Yeah.
So at the time, I actually had like a pretty full beard going. And I remember being in the hotel one of the mornings and kind of looking in the mirror and seeing square on my chin, just this patch. So I didn't really think too much of it. But then, a week or two later, came back home, getting ready for school to start, got that back to school haircut,
Yeah.
And my barber was just, kind of buzzing the back of my neck, my head, and he stopped and he said, "Oh, I'm noticing a couple of these, little round, as you guys know, quarter size, dime size patches." And he kind of brushed it off. But, internally, I was, what's going on here?
Absolutely.
So I went home and just couldn't stop really looking in the mirror and trying to figure out what was going on here. It was actually that weekend that I called my buddy over and basically buzzed my head like that weekend. So Some people kind of struggle with, what should I do? Should I buzz my head? Should I let it stay?
And you were like, it's gone.
Yeah, it was right away that.
Why such a quick decision to shave it? Do you know why you shaved it so quick?
I don't know. Maybe I was scared. Maybe I wanted to take control right away because school was, literally starting.
Yeah.
And I was just like, let's buzz my head and figure this out.
Yeah. And 17 too, like you're right in high school. That's such a pivotal moment.
Mm-hmm.
Did people notice right away?
So we buzzed it so short that you couldn't really notice patches per se. Sure. But of course, everyone was like, "Wow, you buzzed
got rid of all your hair." Yeah, exactly.
But besides that, I just played it off as that's just how I wanted to wear my hair at the time,
Right.
But we went to the primary care, and that's where we first heard the word alopecia, and then. From there, got referred to the dermatologist and talked about it more with him. And that's where we spoke about possible injections, the oral prednisone, which is what I actually tried anyways. Yeah. So I never did shots or anything like that. It just wasn't, just didn't really appeal to me.
You just didn't want to do it? Yeah, exactly.
No, I wasn't a shots guy. And plus, I think even right away, the dermatologist said this would be not a one-time thing.
Yeah,
it would be, a several appointment kind of thing. So I just was like, let's try the prednisone and see where it goes. The prednisone really didn't do much for me. Yeah. And I think probably within a couple months, I was Universalis, like completely. Wow. So
Did you have any side effects from taking the oral prednisone? Because I know it varies with people that get shots versus, people that take the pill. So
I've heard that I maybe gained a little weight, but besides that,
okay.
Not much. Yeah. So that was, I think, a 6-month prednisone, trial. And after that, I was pretty much like, let's, move forward here, I guess.
Yeah, right. When you started losing your hair, was it rapid or was it kind of like over time? Like your eyebrows were going, your hair, or was it like super rapid?
So for my head, it's hard to tell because I buzzed it so short.
Right.
That, that was kind of one of the unfortunate things with buzzing it because I couldn't really gauge my progress,
Right.
But the eyebrows and the rest of my body hair was slower, I would say.
Okay.
But, if things started, we'll just say in August or September, by the spring, I think everything was pretty much Universalis.
That's still fast.
That is, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's such a change from, having hair, having a beard, to
Mhm.
buzzing it off to, now it's all gone. I feel like that's
Did
a
you
lot
also-
to process.
Then shave your beard when you shaved your head?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yep. Because I did have that patch in the
Patch.
middle.
Yeah.
So, and I think even before I got that haircut, I had already shaved my beard because of that patch too. So
Okay.
Right.
I was like, let's start with this and then get the haircut. And then, so it just kept moving on, one
Yeah,
step.
right.
But yeah,
In high school, with hair loss, from the male perspective, we always think it's so interesting to hear, too. How was your mental health during it? Was it hard to process?
Oh, it was super hard to process because my hair was certainly part of my identity.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's weird coming from a guy. I don't know if you hear that a lot from
I haven't
guys,
heard
but
it a lot, but yeah, it's true, though.
just because I feel like I was one of the first guys to really develop. So facial hair and stuff, that was a tremendous part of my identity in school.
Yeah.
One of the first guys to have a full beard and tons of body hair as well.
Right.
And so for that to be part of your identity through even late middle school into high school, and then seemingly overnight, it's gone.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so with that loss of identity and loss of confidence and just kind of isolation, because as you guys know, when you're going through it, you feel alone. You don't feel like anyone can relate to you.
Absolutely.
They might certainly say that they do, but they probably don't. So
Right. Did you find it hard to talk about? Since you were so young, I think of teenage brain,
yeah.
You're 17, you don't really want to think about it, but I mean, it's constantly, you probably were constantly thinking about it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was constantly thinking about it. And
Right.
I remember going back to the dermatologist there. He's like, we don't really know why this happens. It could be stress. It could be a multitude of things. Your hair could come all back. It could fall all out.
Yeah.
But don't worry about it and don't think about it.
Oh,
Right?
thanks.
Oh,
And
you
it's
gotta love that.
Sounds
Don't
great.
worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you could go from nothing to everything, but don't think about it, So that was.
I had this similar thing when I went to the doctor. They were like, you'll
Yeah.
only lose 30 to 50% of your hair. Why are you worried?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's half my head.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, it was, you're constantly thinking about it because
Mhm.
just the uncertainty. Every time you take a shower, you're thinking you're losing more. You look in the mirror, you think you're losing more. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't, but in your head,
Yeah.
that's what you're
Yeah.
thinking about.
So did you do any beanies, toques, or hats?
So I was offered that in school. The teachers, once I actually related my situation to my teachers,
Yeah.
some of them were like, oh yeah, if you want, you can wear a hat. Not really allowed in school, but you can if you want. And to me, it was just well, I don't really want to stand out.
Right.
Yeah.
So why would
Right.
I want to wear a hat,
Right. Because then
The
it would
whole
be hey, why does he get to wear a hat and I don't?
Exactly.
People will start showing up with hats and then it'll become a whole huge thing. I totally
Yeah.
understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I want to not draw attention to myself and I just want to be left alone, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was offered that, but certainly outside of school, I was always wearing hats and everything like that.
Yeah.
I kind of did anyways, even before alopecia. But yeah, hats, a lot of hats, a lot of beanies.
I feel like we
So-
all have collections.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
all
Too
have
many.
collections of beanies and hats and the
Yeah.
whole thing. Was it a thing? I guess I have so many questions because we don't have many men on. So was wig wearing a thing? I feel like that's not really a thing for men. So
No, I had not heard that possibility at all.
right.
And I still don't really.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
They make them, though.
They
Even
do
my
make them.
suction wig,
Yeah.
they make
Yeah.
a male, form of it.
Like
and I'm like,
version.
oh,
Right.
wow.
But it's not really
Yeah.
talked about.
No.
No.
Which is different. I know, that's why I bring it up, because I think I saw an ad for a male wig. And I'm like,
Mhm.
oh,
Yeah.
it's probably because I'm always talking about wigs or Damon's talking about them or something. But yeah, interesting, because I feel like that's not really talked about. So I figured I would ask, because I remember I went to a support group. Oh gosh, I think I was 19 or 20. It was my first one I went to. And there was a gentleman there that I think he was in his 60s. And he was talking about how he had to have been older, maybe in his 70s. He was older. And he talked about how that was the first thing, I thought this was mind-blowing, that his family offered was wigs. So he wore wigs throughout his entire school. And he said they looked terrible because wigs were not cool back then and they were absolutely terrible. But I thought that was so interesting when he said that because I'm like, I feel like that even back then was not really a thing. So for him to say that, very interesting.
Yeah, even like eyebrow, options, those weren't even really discussed back then, at least for me as well. So it was pretty much deal with it.
Right.
There was no options like,
which is kind of crazy. Because there's all those like male pattern baldness, like clinics and stuff, right?
Yeah,
so I'm surprised that wasn't pushed onto you.
Right. I feel like the thing that's pushed onto men more is treatment and micropigmentation and all that stuff instead of like less harmful or less permanent things, like I feel like more drastic things are pushed onto men. I never knew about micropigmentation. I never knew about anything like that, but my brother did. Like, he's bald. My brother did. He knew all about it. And I'm like, that's so weird, the differences of men and women. Like
even the like hair implants is more triggered towards men, right? So
way more interesting.
Yeah, it's weird. We have a lot of men and women. We have these core experiences that we share, but on the outside, very different experiences a lot of times. So
yeah, absolutely,
very interesting.
Very interesting. All right, I'm going to kick it off to Kristen.
Into the questions, So what was the hardest hurdle to jump when it came to your hair loss?
Probably, early on, like I was saying earlier, the isolation and loss of identity and self-confidence, definitely early on. So,
right. And at 17, too, were you dating? I'm
I was,
How was that?
It was, so my high school sweetheart, she's my wife now, actually. So she was with me before alopecia and through that whole journey and still together, obviously. So if you look at it that way, I think I had kind of a unique experience with dating with alopecia just because we were together before my alopecia. So I don't have any experience with like new dating with alopecia. So
I know I figured I would ask you that because that tends to, we've had a couple of people on with different experiences. So I feel like we're still looking for that person where the hardest hurdle is dating because we know that person's out there. Because I knew when I got diagnosed, I was dating someone different and now I'm married. But I remember that was hard for me to tell someone about it, especially because I wore wigs so often in the beginning. Actually, no, not in the beginning. All the time in my now husband. But we're looking for people that talk about dating because we want to know what's the 411. Does that date me if I say that? Does that age
maybe
me?
A little?
I can say though, like from my perspective, even just meeting someone new.
Yeah.
Because I don't have wigs or anything, it's just kind of out in the open. So when I first meet someone, it's like, well, I know that they probably know that something's going on. So do I tell them right away or do I just kind of just go with it? And,
that dance of like, should I say something or wait for their questions?
Yeah. So that's not so much with dating, but just meeting new people in general. So
that's actually interesting you say that because, only 2 years ago, I told people about mine. And I feel like people I knew and still know before I told them about my alopecia, I'm always waiting for that. I still am. If I see them, if we hang out with them, I'm like, you still haven't asked. You still haven't asked about my alopecia, and it's very weird. Like, they'll skate around the subject of, like, how's the podcast going? Or stuff like that, but they won't, say anything about alopecia. And I'm like, man, this is so weird. I feel like people are uncomfortable bringing it up with me. So, I feel the same way. I haven't met many new people that I haven't rocked this outside really that much, but I'm interested to see what people would say because I feel like, I'm like a spotted leopard, Like if I were to walk out in public, I feel like people would be like, whoa! Like, what are all those spots on her head? Go ahead, Kay. I'm going to kick it to you again.
Well, I like this question because this is going to open it up to your podcast. In what ways do you advocate and or spread awareness about alopecia?
Less than a year ago, I started Alopecia Connection, just a podcast, again, as you said, just trying to get more stories out there. But at least in the beginning, I wanted to focus more on stories from the male perspective, just because I didn't really hear a lot of them. So I just wanted to kind of give a platform to get some of those stories out.
Absolutely.
So,
you know what's funny is there's been people that have reached out to us that are like, hey, do you know of anyone that talks about the male perspective? And we're like, yep, Frank, here you go. Here's all this information, because you are the only one we know. Like, we don't know many other people, like, from male perspective that have any talk show, nothing. So when I found out about you, I'm like, oh, this is so much needed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's just because we just tend not to talk about things as much. I started going to the local NAF support groups, and maybe I have 20 or 30 people there, but there was only maybe 2 or 3 guys. So I would hear a lot of stories, which were great, and get a lot of things from everybody's experiences. But, I just wasn't getting a lot of stories from the male perspective. So that kind of led me.
That's actually one of our questions too, was in regards to the male perspective when it comes to alopecia and hair loss in general. Why do you think it's underrepresented, and why do you think it's not talked about that much? That was actually one of our questions.
Yeah.
I feel like it kind of ties back now. Tell me if I'm wrong. But I feel like it also kind of ties into, like you said, women tend to talk about their emotions and feelings more than men, but also underrepresented because what we just talked about. Look at how much stuff is pushed towards males too. Here's a permanent fix for that. Here, get a transplant. Here, get micropigmentation so it hides all your bald patches, A, B, and C, to get rid of it, right? Whereas women, it's like, oh, you could wear a wig or a beanie or just rock it. So I feel like it's just such a dragon to slay. Because it's like, how do we get more men to talk about their hair loss? Because we had my brother on, and I know it took him forever, years and years and years to talk about it. So I know we want to help as much as we can too, because we think it's so important for everybody's stories to be told.
Yeah.
Because we know that we're a couple of women that men might not want to listen to. They want to hear it from a male perspective. So we love what you're doing, and we can't say thank you enough for doing that for the alopecia community. Yeah,
I just think back when I was 17 and what would have helped me at the time. You know what I mean? I know podcasts weren't really a thing back then, but maybe I wasn't ready to go to a support group, like a live support group. But if I could have just driven around, popped on a podcast, and just heard somebody's story, in the comfort of my own space, it would have really helped out. So that's kind of what I'm going for here, I guess.
Right. It's like a different way to get support, because some people might not want to show up and show that they have alopecia because it's too real. So listening to people is a different way to get support. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Tell us more about your podcast. Like, what have you learned? What are you looking forward to in the future? What are you planning to do? We just want to hear all about it.
So, I've really enjoyed it so far. We just put out the 9th episode featuring our first woman on the podcast, Michaela. She's a young woman, super impressive. She's incredibly involved with NAF, the Alopecia Justice League. She's one of the mentors for the kids, and she's done fundraising. She's just done a ton of stuff. And, doing it so far, it's been awesome to meet all these people. And cool thing, I think, with all this is, as you guys know, with alopecia, there's all these different forms, and you can get it at all different ages, and it can come back, it can go again. So the story and the experience possibilities are pretty much endless.
Yeah, absolutely. We always laugh about how, like, having a podcast, I feel like you probably feel this too, is every time you have a guest on, it's kind of like a therapy session.
Yeah.
It's nice to be able to talk about alopecia with alopecians and know that you could possibly be helping more people with their journeys. I feel like that's such an important and great thing for us to experience too.
And it's like another way to kind of gain control over your situation, and I've heard that from some of my guests. Just telling their story gives them a sense of control over the situation too. But
you got it.
But I've had guests who developed alopecia at a young age, at an old age, and again, just the experiences are very different.
Oh yeah.
So it's good to hear that, because like we were talking about earlier, you might not relate to every single guest, but you might get just a little something from somebody that kind of resonates with you, and that's all you really need. So
right. It's like bits and pieces from every person can just help you. It's weird. We talk about that too, where, there are a lot of similarities, of course, that's how we bond. That's how we connect with each other, because there's similarities. But the differences and how people have perceived their journey, or the advice that they give, or even situations that they've been through in their journey that we hear. There's been times where we'll sit there and we'll be like, whoa, we never thought of it that way. And that helps us push us along. So it's like we're all giving each other little pieces of our own experience to help us through. And it's a powerful experience. It really is.
It is. Sharing the stories and just sharing with each other. And then like, even staying connected afterwards is just so huge.
Yeah.
So I'm going to lead into this with, have you had any like funny moments through your hair loss that you can look back and laugh at now?
Yeah. So they maybe weren't funny at the time, but
sure.
So back in high school, I was on the crew team. You guys familiar with crew rowing?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I was not. So rowing.
So, this was senior year, just got alopecia, and I'd be rowing, and, you got to keep sync with everyone, and, you got both your hands on your oar, and you're keeping timing and everything like that. And the sweat, right, would just come down my head into my eyes, virtually blinding me while I'm trying to row.
Oh, no.
So here I am, and I can't wipe the sweat out of my eyes because I got to keep my hands
you're
on my
rowing.
oar. And I'm like virtually blind, and I'm like, this is not a good situation here. So eventually, though, I started wearing bandanas when I was rowing and stuff like that. So
sure,
good old sweatband.
Yeah,
those are still a thing. No,
yeah,
I don't think they are.
No, they're not.
But on a couple occasions, it was pretty scary out there. So,
I can't imagine. Here we go.
Yep, I'm just trying to keep my eyes open.
Just rowing along. Yep.
Yeah.
Relying on your teammates.
Yeah. My eyes are just burning, but I'm trying to keep them open.
That is just something else. You know that what's interesting is there are a lot of sports players. There's football players. There's basketball players. There's a whole bunch of people that I think about because I'm trying to think now. Do any of them wear anything? I'm trying to think.
Especially if they don't have eyebrows to catch the sweat, right?
I know, like Charlie Villanueva, when he used to play in the NBA, he definitely wore a sweatband.
Okay, because I know there's some football players too that have alopecia.
Yeah.
Maybe their helmet holds
their helmets,
it.
right? Their helmets would just hold it in, right? Exactly. I know. I'm always so curious about that, because there's nothing to protect your face when you're sweating away. So
because you didn't even have eyelashes at that time, right?
No,
so like no eyebrows, no eyelashes, sweat's just going in.
Yeah, it's something you don't think about until you don't have them, I guess,
Right.
Yeah.
Just pouring in your eyeballs at the leader.
They do serve a purpose, so.
Absolutely.
They do. So do like nose hairs. I know I was like sick forever because I didn't have nose hairs. So
isn't that crazy? I feel like people don't put that together with hair loss. They
Mm-hmm.
don't think, oh yeah, you do need body hair. You do need these certain things on your skin because it helps you with certain things. So yeah, very interesting.
I have one more kind of funny story.
Oh, go for it, please.
So
we like funny.
Around Christmas time, do you guys do, or are you familiar with Yankee gift swaps?
Yeah, absolutely. Like white elephant and stuff like that.
Yeah.
White elephant.
So
you guys are using all these terms.
So everyone wraps a gift and puts it in a pile. You draw numbers and you pick out your random gift. You don't know what it is. So we had the big family Yankee gift swap, and I pick a gift. It's a small gift. I open it up, and it's a can of like beard wax, like mustache wax.
No way.
And I'm like, you have to be kidding me. Like, out of this
what
whole
are the
pile,
odds of that? Right.
What are the odds? And I'm like, I'm trading this gift. I don't want this gift at all. Get rid of it.
Right. Like, what is the point? What am I even going to use this for?
Yeah. But it was just like, you got to be kidding me here.
I know. You just think like the universe is just playing jokes now.
Yeah.
It's just pulling some jokes out of their hat. That's awesome.
Whoever brought that one should have been like, no, Frank. No.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
I know. Why did they give you a heads up? Like, wait, I packaged that. Like, no, don't go for it.
Yeah.
That is too good. I love stories like that, though, because now thinking about it, I mean, like, it's just hilarious. There's so many things like that. I mean, Kristen and I, we talk our lips blue about funny moments that we experienced throughout our hair loss now that we laugh at. But then we were in full panic mode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Not so funny then.
Yeah, exactly. But now it's just like, oh man, that's just, you gotta laugh about it, because what else? We do have a couple more questions. I'm gonna let Kristen close it out with these last two.
Yeah, for sure. So what are your best resources or people that have helped you along your way?
Let me think here. So our local NAF support group in Boston. The leader there, Krissa, she's been awesome, just super supportive through everything. And then just the whole online community on Instagram, like you guys, all the podcasts. Again, I wish this was around 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Because
I know.
really would have changed everything.
I feel like most people that got alopecia when they were younger, even me, I mean, mine was only 10 years ago, but still, I didn't look online. I wish I knew about it too. So I feel like there's a lot of people that don't know about it. That's like why that's the whole point of why we're doing what we're doing. Because once you figure out about the community, it's a whole different life to live with hair loss. So I agree.
I mean, I tried back when I first got alopecia, but at that time there was just these message boards, right?
Yep.
So I remember going on some alopecia message boards and maybe posting a note, but then you'd have to wait for someone to respond to you, and it's just nothing like it is nowadays.
Like a week to respond, and by that time you're thinking about something else. Absolutely. I know the instant being able to I feel like ever since AAM came out, where you could quickly, or texting came out, I feel like that's when it started, where people could connect all around the world. And I feel like that's a huge benefit of the internet. As scary as it can be, that's a huge benefit because it connects so many people. I mean, I thought it was crazy that there were people that we talked to that, when I first posted about my hair loss, I was talking to people in Germany. I was talking to, people were telling me all their different experiences. And I think that was so powerful to just feel like I wasn't alone in the whole world, which was weird. You know, I feel like not many people get to experience that. So, yeah.
Okay, last question. Okay. Tough, but a good one. What is one piece of advice that you would give someone new to hair loss or possibly regressing with their hair loss journey?
It might just be kind of general, but just reach out, meet others, connect with others. I didn't mention this, but I didn't meet another person with alopecia for over 10 years.
Oh, wow.
So it was a huge mistake in retrospect. But, if I had reached out and connected, I could have saved years of just, feeling isolated and stuff like that. So as we were just saying, there's a whole community out there. And if you're going through alopecia, reach out and connect. Yeah. It's funny because it's not common, but it's also not
I know.
Rare?
Not
Isn't that weird? Yeah. It's weird to think about because I feel like, dermatologists and scientists would tell you, oh, no, this is kind of rare. Not many people, only, a couple of million people have it. But when you connect with everybody, it's but it seems like there's a whole world full of alopecians. Yeah. So,
well, scrolling through my Instagram, it's just baldy. And I'm like, this is crazy that's what I see now.
Yeah.
When I didn't connect with somebody for 18 or 19 years that had the same thing as me. Yeah. So I'm in the same boat as you, Frank. And I was if I would have just known, even just one person, right? So
yeah, exactly.
I think that's also why I always laugh about it because I'm always very awkward when I do. But when I see someone in public that I know has alopecia, I will go talk to them. I've even done markets where I'm like, hey, Damon, man the fort. I'm out of here. I see someone with alopecia. Because it's I think, what if they need someone? What if they don't know anybody in their area? What if they're new to the area? What if this is the first time they're rocking their bald? You know what I mean? Yeah. So I feel like I would want someone to do that to me if they saw me out in public like this. I would want another alopecian to come up to me and be like, hey, you got alopecia? Let's become friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or even just like at the sushi restaurant where I saw that baldy and I just pulled off my wig and then I sat there and ate dinner and we were both like, hey, because it was just
Yep.
Just solidarity. Yeah.
Right. I know. It means so much. I feel like even if I agree. All right. I'm going to go on a tangent again. I always go on tangents.
I've met guys in my own town, the next town over. It's crazy.
I know. It's so wild. And it's so nice to see someone in person too.
Mm-hmm.
That. It's nice to see obviously over video, but in person, it's a whole nother emotion that comes over. So
I think we had one person on that said that they went on an alopecia retreat and they were I think they were canoeing and the wind came up and they were all bald at this point, but they all went to reach for their heads because they thought they were wearing something, right? And then they looked at each other and laughed. You don't get that with
exactly
right. Mm. You'd just be alone doing that if you were with people with hair.
I think it was Gabe that talked about it.
Yeah, it was.
He also talked about at that retreat how they had a DJ and like a dance floor and everything, and how everybody was on the dance floor like whipping off their wigs and their hats and everything, and it was just nice to be able to be yourself in a sea of people that understood you. So I know, that's so great when people connect like that. We do have a couple more things too. The last thing is our chick bit, but before we do that, we wanted to say thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Loved having you here, hearing your perspective, talk about the male perspective. We love it, and we can't wait to see what you do in the future. So if you want to find Frank, all of that information is going to be in our direct me. But before we close it out, our chick bit is about hair loss, of course. And as a lot of you know, alopecia areata affects about 2% of people worldwide, what we were just talking about. But half of men in the world experience some type of hair loss by the age of 50. So advocating for any and all alopecians is a must, which is why Frank and his podcast is very much needed. He is working hard to spread awareness from a male's perspective, and what an awesome job you are at doing that.
Do you think there's any way that we can work together to change and represent men more in this? I just saw it in your list of questions page.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I could certainly, refer some of my guests over to you guys if you want. I have a bunch that have been super positive, just great. Awesome guests.
We would love to have more men on our podcast. I mean, we've only had a few. So, I mean, we would love to start advocating for men, too, with alopecia, because we think it's important. I mean, we want to hit every type of alopecia, every person, every walk of life with alopecia. So, yeah, absolutely. We would love to do, a male series or something like that.
Definitely.
Yeah, that would be awesome. But, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again, Frank. You've been amazing, as always.
Thanks for having me.
If you want to get a hold of us, you can email us at thosebaldchicks@gmail.com or send us a message on Instagram or Facebook. All of the links to everything you need is in our direct me, which you'll be able to find in the episode description. Until next time, guys, Bald Pack up.